people shouldn't ask for or seek out attention. Everybody wants attention. Everybody wants validation. Everybody wants to be seen, and everybody's pretending they don't need it. We're really good at noticing what other people are doing wrong, but we're really not that good at noticing what we're doing that could be hurtful. The use of words can pierce a person's heart. You can take a situation that's completely conflictual and you can completely turn it around with different words. One change in the way that you say something can change everything. Most of the problems between men and women are misunderstandings. People just want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be understood. Every person who's listening, do not forget this. It will change your life, I promise. So think of this. Hey guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. My message today is really a lot of straight talk, and it is about relationships. It is about the language of relationships. It is about sound. It is about sound waves and about the use of semantics and words. That is one of the chapters. I have dedicated a whole chapter in my book on semantics and the power of words and how it influences every single area of our lives. So I'm going to start really straight talk. And I do not have a lot of preparation for this podcast, except for my passion that's underneath it. And my passion underneath this concept comes from a lot of studying, a lot of training in neuroscience, a lot of personal experience, a lot of mistakes and different communication issues. So I'd like to begin with the concept of any relationship that you're in. And I'm going to use, for the purpose of this podcast, a lot of focus on male-female relationships and romantic relationships, because our society has moved away from what a real relationship is, or possibly it's never really had the basic foundational principles that I believe cause a lasting and secure relationship. I have made my share of mistakes in relationships, so I'm not coming to you as someone who's like holier than thou, but through these mistakes, I have learned a lot about love and communication. So if we were to go and look at our society's structure and what we're learning about relationships or about dating, we can see a lot of negativity. Negativity is trending in dating and it's trending in relationships. And I think there's a huge desire from just us human beings that we need to return to love. We need to return to stability. We need to return to trust and respect. And we have become so accustomed to the concept of resentment, of sarcasm, of adversarial relationships between male and female romantic partners. And I think this is turning into something that has taken on a life of its own. And I stand firmly against it. So I think from the time we're very young, we're taught this kind of princess, prince idea, that relationships are supposed to be this way, that your hero is going to come and rescue you. I still love that idea, by the way. I just can't lie. I love the idea of having a hero and a man. And I think men love to be heroes too. So that's just a side note. But my focus today is not about the fairy tale that we've been taught, because I think we've been taught something much more extreme throughout our entire lives. And what we've been taught after the fairy tale concept is we've been taught that relationships are adversarial, that they rob us from freedom, that freedom does not equal intimacy, that freedom and individual identity equals a lack of trust, a lack of commitment, a lack of desire to be with the other person. I think there's a lot of ongoing messages that have subliminally become our concept of what a relationship is. And I believe in relationships. I believe in the power that a man and a woman have that they can foster together to become incredible, vibrant, individual people, and also a powerful, loving couple that has stability. I think we've lost the concept that, I make the joke. I say behind every successful man, or maybe not a successful man, there's a woman rolling her eyes. And I also make the not so funny joke that you could just stop off at it could be a nail salon. It could be a bus stop where women are dropping off their kids. It could be any place where women gather. And if you want to strike up a conversation, complain about a man. And it is like chum for sharks, for God's sakes. Women are like, oh my God, yeah, my husband, he's clueless. Men, I don't know, they don't get it. They don't know how to raise kids. All these very degrading perceptions of men. Men are all dogs. You can't trust them. If you look at the dating community and then you look at the married community and you listen to the language used about the opposite sex, it's very disconcerting to me. And it actually bothers me a lot because there's so many beautiful qualities in men that are missed by women. And there are so many beautiful qualities in women that are missed by men. And I don't want to call it anyone's fault. I think we have built out a belief system about the opposite sex of us that communicates, or somehow in our body, we somehow believe that we cannot trust the opposite sex in different ways. So, for example, let me do it on the male side. So men, you can hear all kind of like different jokes in regard to men. When men are talking about women, they'll say things like, what are the stereotypes of women and what are the stereotypes of men? And we should just talk about this. Let's have a real conversation about the stereotypes that we're actually believing. Okay. So the stereotypes about men, that they're dogs, that they cheat. The stereotypes about men is that they're clueless, that they don't know how to take care of children. Stereotypes about men, that they're non-committal, blah, blah, blah. Those stereotypes have now transferred over to women as well. Men also think all of those things about women. Or that, men think that women talk a lot. They talk too much. They are needy. They are critical, complainers, and controlling. And ladies, let's be honest. We have learned to do that, to complain, to criticize, to control. And now I'm going to, kind of side note this is that as a woman, I think women and men need to understand this, that women will complain in order to connect, and men will experience complaining as control. And I think we have to be mindful of our complaints. Because if we very often, like if I have wanted I wanted something different, right, from a man, what I might do is complain about what it is that's happening instead of asking for what I want. So the one thing that I believe about men is that they want to please women, that they want women happy, that a happy wife, there's that joke, happy wife, happy life. But that's turned into a negative connotation as well, a negative message. Like, just keep her happy, just like yes her to death. And then, I'll have a happy life because she won't complain to me. Or she won't, if she's happy, I don't have to listen to her. That mindset is really screwed up. And what we need to be communicating is that, men, you can disagree with me. I'd love to hear your comments, but I believe that men ultimately in their hearts, it's a reflection on their success when they have a woman that's happy. I think having a happy woman is a reflection that, I'm succeeding. But let's say a man comes home from work and he's really put in a hard day's work. And I'm talking about this kind of like a traditional setup, but it doesn't have to be this. And a woman goes to the man and is complaining about her hard day or the difficulties with the children or something like that. A man can feel burdened by that and can experience it as complaining. And the woman just wants some women, I know me, I would just want, oh, honey, I know it's been hard. Women typically just want to be understood and they just want to be heard. But the manner in which we're bringing that is very, very hard for someone, particularly a man. So for a man to agree with and understand that this is hard, their understanding is, I'm here to fix this. How can I serve my woman the best way that I can? It's to help her to feel better. And their perspective is, I can help her to feel better by making the problem go away. So here are some solutions. And then women don't feel heard. Then they feel criticized, which the whole thing, none of it makes sense. So the way to interact and the way we use language can bypass all of this. Most of the problems between men and women are misunderstandings. I am certain of this. I've been a therapist 30 years. 30 longer than that. I don't want to date myself, but longer than 30 years. I've had my business 32. Yeah, it's been quite a while. So anyhow, I've been a therapist a long time, over 32 years. So what I do understand about that by doing marriage counseling and all of that is that people just want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be understood. And most of us experience someone else's pain, the opposite sex's pain, or their frustration with us, whether you're male or female, it does not matter. Their frustration with us is a reflection of our value or their love for us. But truly, if you can bring something to someone in the right wording, with the right heart, that what happens in that case is that this is the way that this person feels better and more connected to you. And I'm going to give you a lot of examples. I have a lot of things to say about words, and I don't even think I have enough time in this podcast. So I might even just make it a series. So I think, if you begin a relationship, let's talk about the beginning stages of a relationship. The beginning stages of a relationship, you're building something together. You're building a foundational structure that most things are going to be built on top of. I liken relationships to a suspension bridge. And within those big, I don't know what they are, metal tubes that go across. Within those tubes that hold up this structure, there are, I don't know the exact number, but it's like millions of tiny wires or connections. You know, anybody who's an architect or a bridge builder, don't hold me to this, but it's the structure of many, many, many connections from spanning across this bridge. So I see a relationship the same way, that every little nuance, every time you look at your spouse or your loved one a certain way, every time you understand them, every time you are sarcastic or you make fun of them, you use your humor to get a laugh at their expense, that also creates some sort of structure in there, some sort of wiring that builds this bridge. And if we can understand that, I believe, and I have had in my own marriage, kind of just this thing that there is an unspoken and spoken reverence for that relationship, that I hold this in the highest regard, that this person needs to be admired, never criticized, put in a category outside of all other humans in my life. And if we could start to look at relationships in this same way, that if I have a significant person in my life, that this is a person, like let's talk about a marriage, that this person is here and I'm going to choose them every day. So what I'm going to choose is the right way to say words to them. Because a little side note, science is that sound waves never end. The use of words can pierce a person's heart in a way that never goes away. So one of the practices that I had previously in my marriage with my late husband is that we never, and we discussed it really early on when we very first met, that the way that we would speak to one another, and we didn't even really have to do it because it was very natural for us. So even if we'd be kidding around with other people or, saying certain things in regard to other, talking to other people, the way that we spoke to one another privately and in groups was always in a way that would lift them up. So let's just say, here's an example. So let's say my kids would be like, oh yeah, mom's always like that. She does this, and this, right? I do recall it would be like, he would say things that would lift me up. So yeah, well, one of the things about, Alison, or if we were in a group of friends, I should say more likely with friends. Yeah. But Alison isn't scattered. Alison has excellent points. Like he would say something about me that showed his admiration for me. And I really would feel the same way. Like if like ever anybody would talk about like construction or somebody not knowing something like more book smart or something, I would always say something because I believed it, the value of somebody who has this kind of intelligence, somebody who can build anything, somebody who can measure and figure out how to build a house, how to build, how to do plumbing and electric and all of that. So there was something that was always in place, and it was never be that we would name call, and it would never be, even in the littlest ways. One of the things about sarcasm, there's a joke. I mean, not really a joke. One of my sons said to me once, which I thought was so interesting. He said, you're never sarcastic, and or you don't get sarcasm. And I find it interesting because the way I experience relationships and love and connection, I'm talking about intimate relationships, is that I'm not going to say one thing when I mean something else. So if somebody says, oh yeah, it's freezing in here when it's really hot, my answer would be, oh, are you cold? Because when someone says something to me, I believe them. And that may sound kind of naive, but I think it's just truth. I never think that when someone's saying something sarcastic, that they don't mean it. And I do think that, one of the definitions of sarcasm, what it really means is tearing flesh. And we have come to, the thing about humor is that when you say one thing, when something else actually exists, it does cause something, actually biologically, the lack of the dissonance between those two creates laughter. And I think we have become so proficient in our culture at being sarcastic with the ones we love, making fun of them in public. I have been at way more dinner parties and different situations with men and women couples where I have watched them in front of other people make jokes about the other person, and the spouse will laugh, the other spouse. And what I have found just in my role as a therapist is that over time, this creates and builds into the person who is being kind of like made fun of, like, the one spouse is having a great laugh and experiencing the feedback of laughter, while the other person, even though they're laughing, they're building an unknown mountain over the years of resentment. I have seen this in couples who have come to me after 30 years of marriage and their children are doing it. I've seen it happen between people where then they never really believe when their spouse says, oh no, I think you're beautiful, or I think you're smart, or I've seen it with parents and kids that raise kids in these homes, and these kids watch this sarcasm, and then one day they do it with them. And then the parent resents it, but they're not realizing that this is a culture that these children grew in. So what I want to say to you guys is be mindful if you're building a relationship, or if your relationship has already been built. Notice not how the other person talks to you, because I don't know, we're really good at noticing what other people are doing wrong, but we're really not that good at noticing what we're doing that could be hurtful, because our heart's intention may be really good. So even if we're getting a laugh or we're poking fun of somebody, we don't necessarily realize how much it's bothering them if they're laughing. The other thing I do notice that people do who have that sarcastic kind of relationship is that, or even in dating, they'll be like, oh my God, she's a stick in the mud, or she doesn't have a sense of humor. But possibly the sense of humor is just not within that parameter. So I'm going to throw out some things to you. I see sound and words as an incredible power move. Semantics is everything. You can take a situation that's completely conflictual and you can completely turn it around with different words. One change in the way that you say something can change everything. So I'm going to give you a pro tip. Every person who's listening, do not forget this. It will change your life, I promise. So think of this. When you never again, as long as you live until the day you die, present an initial conversation with someone with the word why. So, why did you do that? Why did you color your hair? So let's say someone tells you they're upset. Why are you upset? Why did you get blue instead of brown? Now, I want you to take a moment and I want you to ask yourself, if I said to you, oh, why are you wearing that? Or why did you do that? Or why do you feel that way? Now, understand and just feel that. I do everything I can not to use the word why, because what why produces is a request for justification, an explanation, and most people experience that as with a defensive heart. They may not know it, but something shifts in them. So if someone said to me, why are you wearing black? I don't feel that way because I kind of I don't know. Don't use me. I wouldn't be as upset because I kind of get it that people say that word and their heart is not because they don't like the black shirt. They may be asking for another reason, but it takes a lot of jumps to understand that, oh, they're asking for a different reason not to criticize me. So the assumption could be, oh, they think I should be wearing another color. Well, I have to explain why I'm, wearing black. So I had an experience where I said, my hair's so dirty. And the person said to me, why is your hair dirty? And the answer to me is obvious. I didn't wash it. But then I feel like I have to justify it. Oh, because it's not good for your hair to wash it every day, or because I didn't have time, or because it takes a lot of time to wash your hair. So now you see that the person didn't mean it. They just wanted to understand. There's nothing wrong with what they said, but it's a really great power move to never say why about things. So for example, if somebody said, I'm so upset, let's say your spouse or someone that you're dating, they say that I'm so upset. And then you say, why? Why are you so upset? It sounds sweet, but how about, oh, wow, yeah, you want to tell me about it? See the difference? Or, what was it that, brought that on? Or, how did that come about for you? You see the difference in the language. Why are you upset? So it could be one of the things in a relationship I want you to remember. Suppose you are mad at the person that you're with. You feel angry. Okay? Here is my challenge to you. If you are angry at the person you're with, Does that mean they did something wrong? Do, 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 do. No, it doesn't mean they did something wrong at all. What it means is that you're having an emotional experience, right? And you don't have to blame someone else for it. So a really great tactic, and I've done this in my marriage, I would say, I don't know what's going on. I had this sudden feeling of anger towards you. And I would always say, but I'm not saying, I know you didn't do anything. Or I might say, I really don't feel, I'm not saying that you did anything wrong. I just don't know what just came up. I just feel angry. And it's so weird. It's just like a mood swing. I'm not minimizing it, but I'm saying I'm not putting full ownership on that person. So then he would say, oh yeah, what's going on? Not defensive. Because my feelings belong to me. My words belong to me. How I handle myself is what matters. And that brings me into a discussion I have all the time on this podcast. It's emotional sobriety. When I have a feeling, that feeling, the first stop when I have a feeling is to go inward. That is emotional sobriety. Most people, when they have a feeling, they go outward. They blame, they accuse, they try to tinker around with that person to make that person, place, or thing not be making them angry anymore. So you have to do this so I don't feel angry. So you may have to, at some point, have a conversation with someone so that they understand how something affected you. But that's not the first stop. The first stop every single time when we have an emotion is to go to ourselves and to say, my question when I feel upset is, Alison, what is it about this situation that has given you this opportunity to feel this feeling? And, when have I felt this feeling before? Is this a feeling I rehearse often? Frustration, or feeling like a victim, or feeling like a martyr, or feeling like I do everything for everyone and no one does everything for me? What is the recurring theme here? And what is it that just happened that I believe contributed to this feeling that I rehearse? Most often when there is a feeling that is greater than a situation merits, and we want to blame that other person, place, or thing, it is not them. They may have rubbed up against an old experience that you've had, and it resonates with your past or some experience you've had or a belief about yourself or your own shame. But it doesn't mean that they are the one who created it. Whenever somebody says to, as a therapist, oh, she made me feel, he made me feel. So if I said, oh, what's going on? What's, you're feeling really upset. What's happened? What's going on with you? And then they say, well, because of him or because of her. And I'm always like, nah, it's not because of them. How about, let's talk about that. They gave you an opportunity to feel something that has been buried alive because the reaction is so big. It can't be because of this one thing. So she was critical of me. I'm so sick of her being critical of me. And I understand that. I don't think people should be critical of one another. And then that brings me back to the way that we communicate. So very often people will criticize another person because they're afraid. So I'm going to criticize you so you change so I can feel better, so I can get what I want instead of asking for what you want. So let's say your spouse, your wife, your husband, they walk in and they don't really look at you. And then you say, every time you come in the house, you don't even notice me. It feels like you don't even know I'm alive or I don't matter to you. And they say declarative statements. And what I mean by that, a definitive statement telling that person why they're doing what they're doing. You know how many spouses do that? No, she's doing this because of this. I know. He's doing this because of that. I know. And you know what? Not true. You never know. How about asking? So the question would be, instead of saying, you never look at me, Or how, why don't you ever look at me? Or why do you make fun of me? Or why blah, blah, blah. How about saying, it would mean so much to me if, after a few minutes after you come in, if you just look at me and just remember or tell me how you feel about me. I really need you today to tell me that you love me. Or I really, there's this whole theme in relationships, and it begins right now in our current state in dating, that people shouldn't ask for or seek out attention, which I think is a bunch of bullshit, by the way. Everybody wants attention. Everybody wants validation. Everybody wants to be seen, and everybody's pretending they don't need it. And it's bullshit. So I'm calling you all out on that. I will say boldly, right, now, I like attention, and I'm not talking about being an attention whore. I'm talking about I like to be seen, heard, validated, understood. I like words of affirmation. I like to be admired and thought well of. I also believe that should be delivered the same to the person that you're with, and understanding what they need. So people have been taught, all of us have been taught to hide our real feelings. We've been taught we've been ridiculously taught not to show a need, show a desire, show an authentic feeling to the person that we're with, because God forbid they won't give it. God forbid you look thirsty. Let me tell you something. If what's happened in our lives here is that we've morphed into, if I like you, love you, want you, need you, I'm thirsty, I'm desperate, I'm, needy. It's all bullshit. A person who pursues another person, who reaches out to another person, I think it's a sign of confidence, as long as you're confident. But if you're reaching out to a person in order to meet a need or to make sure that they give you what you're terrified of because you already don't feel like enough, that's another story. But we have to be more welcoming of, to me, when I hear people younger than me, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to double text. Do you believe that he or she quadrupled or whatever text? I'm like, yeah, I have no problem. I'll do 10 texts. If I have something to say, I'm like, what's wrong with that? Where did we become people who are so afraid to follow all these guidelines? Oh, I'm not going to double text, or I'm not going to leave them unread. Suppose someone read your message and they're busy and they don't have a chance to write you back. So then it's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. Hey, listen, I love attention. I love being able to communicate during the day. And the other person saying, I get really busy during the day. That's me. I get busy during the day. I also like a lot of attention. But I get it that people need to be able to express what's going on with them without the other person becoming so frightened, so threatened, so many things. And I feel like our culture has become a very defensive culture romantically. A lot of people are really not willing to risk, not willing to be hurt, very worried about hurting others, or they will just hurt others before they're hurt without giving it a chance. And my mission always is to change the culture. I want to bring us back to a sense of individual confidence and a sense of, if I can trust me, then even if you're not trustworthy, I trust myself to not be in a situation with someone who's not trustworthy. So I don't have to police you, because I trust me and I love myself enough to not be there. And I think that we need to return to a different way of using language. My next podcast will be about dating. It will be about the use of communication in how we begin relationships, how we continue to mold relationships, the ongoing experience, and how we will build out a situation that a relationship will end just by the use of our tongue. There is life and death in the power of the tongue. Our tongue, the way that we communicate, is a source of so much power, and people are throwing it around everywhere, saying shit they shouldn't say in a way that is misunderstood. I would even go as far as saying all arguments between men and women I have seen in marriage counseling forever is just two people not understanding the other person's heart and where they're really coming from, using language that is ineffective and damaging, reacting to childhood fears that are resonating with the behavior in the marriage that then makes them feel childlike and terrified and defensive and angry and overreact. When there are two adults in a room, let me rephrase that. When there are two people in a room who are screaming at one another, there is no adult in the room. There are two people who are terrified, and it is the least effective way to do things. When I do marriage counseling, I do not put up with people screaming at one another. I'm like, if you practice that at home, has it worked for you? How has that worked? Do you think it's going to work here? Because I'm here to help you do things that are actually going to work, and we get good at what we practice. So we're going to stop practicing that. So if that's how you're attempting to solve a problem at home, don't even do it. You're better off coming here once a week and finding a way to solve it in a way that actually solves it, that you come to an understanding. There's never a winner and a loser. If there's a winner and a loser in any situation between human beings, what that means is that you both lose, especially in a close, intimate relationship. What you want is two winners, and the winners are the people who get you and you get them. And there's a harmony because, we're both screaming at one another because we want the other person to love us. We're both screaming at one another because we want the other person to see us and understand us and care. We feel frustrated because the other person doesn't hear us the way we need to be heard. So we're yelling louder to be heard instead of saying to one another, what is it that I'm missing? How can I understand you better? What is it that feels so threatening right now? I know you feel frustrated. And it takes a mature adult in that moment to get out of their child and to say, this isn't helping. And how can my recommendation is when there's two people talking, if you're the listener, you want to listen without any agenda. That your only agenda is to understand the other person, and you forfeit all of your agenda. And then when you're the talker, that the person that loves you is the listener. And as the listener, all they want is to know you and understand you. They have nothing to defend. And that right there is gold. If you get two people doing that, I've had that. And there is nothing better than that in any relationship. So like if someone says, when you did that, I felt all these feelings of insecurity. Now, instead of giving your whole explanation about why you did it and blah, 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 and, I didn't mean it that way, blah, 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 blah. How about you stop and you say, you know what? I could see how you would have felt that way. Yeah. Although I didn't mean it that way, I get the reason that it felt that way for you. And I would never want you to feel that way, my love. And I'm going to end on that note. I'm just over here, Alison Answers, trying to spread some harmony, maybe save a few marriages, maybe just give a little glimpse into some of the tips and tricks that we can use to bring more harmony onto this earth that's having a lot of problems. Please, I beg you, please like, subscribe, leave comments. I want to know what you want, what you need, what you think of this. And no haters, please, because I won't listen. I'm just kidding. Kinda. All right. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And I look forward to the next time.